My name's Jason, and after both of our parents passed, I assumed everything would be split evenly between me and my sister, Melissa. That's what Mom always said, 50-50, no matter what. She drilled it into us from the time we were kids. So imagine my confusion when the lawyer read the will and Melissa got everything. The house, the savings, the land, even the antique business my father spent his life building. I was stunned. Melissa didn't even look at me. She just sat there, calm, smug almost. After the reading, I pulled her aside. "What the hell is this?" I asked. "We were supposed to share." She gave me a half smile. "It's what they wanted, Jason. You moved away, remember? You weren't around when they needed you." "That wasn't true. I moved out of state for work, yes, but I visited often. I called every week. I paid for Dad's surgery when his insurance ran out. I bought Mom that generator during the ice storm. I never abandoned them." Melissa lived nearby, but she rarely visited. So how did she end up with everything? Something didn't sit right. I started digging. I wanted answers. What I found shocked me more than the will. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Melissa wasn't acting like someone who just lost both her parents. She was glowing, smiling at the will reading, dressed like she was going to brunch. I started calling around, speaking to people who'd known our family. Aunt Liz was the first one to hint at something. "Strange. Your mom called me 2 weeks before she died," she said. Said she was worried about the paperwork. Something about being pressured. That was my first real lead. I drove 5 hours back to the old family home. Melissa had already moved in. Her car was in the driveway, and the front porch was cluttered with delivery boxes. New furniture, by the looks of it. I knocked. She opened the door and looked like she saw a ghost. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "I have a right to be here," I said. "It's still our parents' house." "No," she replied coldly. "It's mine now." I didn't argue. I just stepped aside and called Dad's lawyer. Not the one who handled the will, but the one they'd had for years, Mr. Vernon. He sounded hesitant at first, but I told him I just wanted to understand what happened. "Jason," he said, "I handled their estate planning up until about 3 months before your mother passed. That's when Melissa told them they needed someone new. Said I was too old-fashioned. That was a red flag. Melissa orchestrated the switch. She took them to another lawyer, one who had no history with our family. Do you still have a copy of their original will?" I asked. He hesitated. "Technically, no, but I remember it well. Everything was split equally, half to you, half to Melissa. That was the last version I drafted." I hung up and sat in my car outside the house, staring at the front door. Melissa had lied. She manipulated them into changing everything. But how? Were they coerced? Drugged? I needed proof. I started going through old voicemails Mom had left me, hours worth. One of them caught my attention. She sounded flustered. "Jay, honey, I need to talk to you soon about some papers your sister brought over. I'm not sure I understand what she wants us to sign." It was dated 2 weeks before she passed. My hands were shaking. I drove straight to the courthouse. I filed for a formal challenge to the will. Melissa was going to freak, and honestly, I hope she did. The moment Melissa got the court notice, she called me. Not texted, called. I hadn't heard her actual voice in months. "Are you out of your damn mind?" she yelled before I could even say hello. "You're challenging the will? Mom and Dad made their decision. Get over it." I stayed calm. They didn't make that decision freely, and you know it. There was a pause, and for a moment I thought I heard her breathing quicken. "You have no proof," she said flatly, and hung up. That last line told me everything. She was nervous. That meant she was hiding something. I hired a probate attorney. He was expensive, but worth every penny. The first thing we did was subpoena the files from the new lawyer Melissa had taken our parents to. After 2 weeks, we got the documents, and what we found made my stomach turn. Their signatures were different, sloppier than usual. It was as if someone had guided their hands, or they were too weak to write. The date of the signing?
just one day after Mom's voicemail to me. I brought the voicemail to my attorney. "This is good," he said, listening with narrowed eyes. "Very good. But we need more." So I reached out to Dad's old nurse, Miriam. She used to come in 3 times a week. When I asked if she remembered anything odd about that week, her tone changed. "Actually, yes," she said. "Melissa showed up out of nowhere. She kicked me out early the day before your parents supposedly signed something, said she wanted to have private time with them. Your mother looked terrified. I'll never forget it." That was enough to subpoena her as a witness. Meanwhile, Melissa tried to smear me, told distant relatives I was being greedy, posted some passive-aggressive Facebook status about snakes who come out when money's involved. Classic. But I didn't respond. I stayed quiet. Let her think I was retreating. What she didn't know was that I had also requested the security footage from the retirement community's front entrance cameras. And guess what? The day of the new will signing, Melissa had wheeled both our parents out of the facility against doctor's orders and brought them to a private attorney's office. 2 hours later, she brought them back. That footage, paired with the nurse's testimony, voicemail, and the signature discrepancies, it was enough to build a case. The court date was set, and for the first time in months, I felt like the truth finally had a voice. Melissa had no idea what was coming.
The day of the hearing, Melissa walked into the courtroom dressed like she was going to brunch. Oversized sunglasses, designer bag, heels that clicked with every step. She smirked at me from across the room like she thought she'd already won. But I wasn't there to play games. My attorney laid it all out. The suspicious timing of the will change, the drastic shift from an equal split to Melissa getting everything, the nurse's sworn testimony about my parents looking frightened, and the footage showing Melissa removing our parents from their care facility without medical clearance. Then he played the voicemail Mom had left me just hours before they were manipulated into signing. That was the first moment Melissa's expression cracked. Her lips tightened. She looked at her own lawyer in panic. He whispered something, and she nodded stiffly. When it was her turn, Melissa tried to spin a narrative. She claimed our parents wanted her to have everything because she was the one who visited the most, and they didn't trust me anymore. But under cross-examination, she couldn't explain why my parents never told me about the change themselves, or why there was no video recording of the will signing, which is standard in high-value estate cases involving elderly signers. Then, Miriam, the nurse, took the stand. Her voice was soft but firm. She said she remembered how frightened my mom looked the day Melissa kicked her out early. "It didn't feel right," she said, glancing at me. "It looked like she didn't want to be alone with her daughter." That hit hard. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. Melissa sat there frozen, lips trembling, but still trying to keep her mask on. When the judge made her final remarks, she was clear. There was sufficient evidence of coercion, and the updated will was deemed invalid. The previous version, which split everything equally, was reinstated. Melissa gasped. She whispered something to her lawyer and then stood up like she was going to storm out. But the judge wasn't finished. She ordered an investigation into elder abuse. Suddenly, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about what Melissa had done to our parents, emotionally and psychologically. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled for the first time in months. Afterward, Melissa tried to corner me outside the courtroom. "You've ruined my life," she hissed. "No," I said calmly, looking her straight in the eyes. "You ruined your own life. I just pulled the curtain back." I left her standing there, stunned, in a parking lot that somehow felt colder than when we arrived. The days after the ruling felt surreal. Melissa retreated from public view, and the news about the elder abuse investigation started to quietly leak out. Family members who had been silent for years suddenly called me, some apologizing, others trying to distance themselves from the scandal. I ignored most of them. I focused on what mattered, rebuilding what my parents had wanted us to share. The house was divided, the business's ownership restored to me and Melissa as per the original will, but I quickly arranged to buy out her shares. I couldn't trust her to run the legacy Dad built. With the money, I invested in renovating the family home,
turning it into a community center in their honor. It felt right, a place where people could gather, heal, and remember the kind of family my parents wanted us to be. Occasionally, I'd catch myself thinking about forgiveness. Could I forgive Melissa? Part of me wanted to, for my own peace. But the scars ran deep, and some wounds don't heal overnight. One afternoon, I found an old photo album hidden in the attic. Pictures of Mom and Dad smiling, all four of us as kids. Happier times, before greed and lies tore us apart. I framed the best one and placed it in the community center's entrance. It was a reminder. Family isn't just blood or money. It's trust, respect, and love. Vanessa never reached out again. I don't know where she is or what she's doing, and honestly, I don't care. I have something better now. The truth, justice, and a future I'm building on my own terms. My parents' legacy wasn't stolen. It was restored. And so was I.